Wizard 101 is an almost 20-year-old game that has been through good and bad changes. As someone who is playing the game since I was a kid and has now returned to it because of console, I wanted to go down the Wizard 101 iceberg and talk about everything that has happened over these 20 years. And before I do that, I would like to talk about two things real quick. One, it is my absolute goal to reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you like Wizard 101, you like watching these kind of videos, if you're not subscribed, consider it please, so I don't keep crying myself to sleep. And for the people who may comment this, yes, I know Gladrocker already made a video discussing it, but I love rabbit holes, I love icebergs and stuff like this, so I wanted to make my own rendition of it. Obviously, Gladrocker's the GOAT. If you have not seen his already, go look it up. It's sick. But that's about it. Let's get into the tip of the iceberg. If you are a fan of Wizard 101 today, you absolutely know about the trailers that I am talking about. Those old TV commercials that looked absolutely insane, and then when you actually downloaded the game, it looked completely different and left a lot of fans confused and low-key disappointed.
Visit wizard101.com for your free trial today.
Now, a lot of you may know that the Orthrus spell that Myth has a very creepy moon in the background that a lot of people love, but what you guys may not know is that Wizard 101 actually took that away for a certain amount of time, and it made fans so mad that they complained for so long that they actually decided to bring it back. Everybody knows that there is a Z quest in every single one of the worlds, having you go around and find little figures, but people do not know that all of these figures are actually related to bands in real life. For Wizard City, it's the Smiths; for Krokotopia, it's the Scarabs; for Marleybone, it's the Stray Cats, and so on. If you played Pirate 101, you know that one of the best worlds in the entire game is Cool Ranch. It is one of my favorite worlds in the entire series, and Cool Ranch was actually supposed to be added to this game a long time ago, but it ended up not happening due to them adding things like Darkmoor and, you know, a lot of other projects. We've seen a lot of other Pirate 101 references in Wizard 101, so a lot of fans are speculating when Cool Ranch was going to be added, and it ended up just being added to an actual dungeon, like something that you can farm. So fans are still anticipating it being a later world, maybe after Darkmoor, or maybe they may not even do it at all, because since then they haven't really talked about it. Good boy and good girl, no, this is not some freaky deaky shit that I'm just coming up with. This is actually something that I learned about recently, and at first when I saw this at the tip of the iceberg, I thought it was, yeah, some weird shit, but it's not. So, you know, me and my friends, we just mess with each other and say that shit, but I actually didn't know that there was something behind it. Back in the day, people actually thought that if you said good boy or good girl to your pet, that they would actually have a better chance, like a 5 or 10% chance to Maycast. This theory has been completely debunked, and I haven't seen a lot of people do it since, but I have seen people do it after their pet cast, and I try to stay as far away from those people as possible. Massive Fantasy Palace was one of the most iconic and known houses you can get in this game. It was pretty much just known as the major hangout spot. If you had one of these, it was pretty hard to get one, and if you had one of these, a lot of players wanted to just go and hang out there. You know, there's a lot of hangout places in Wizard 101, but the Massive Fantasy Palace was known as like the place to be back in the day. This was even before the graphics got better, so, you know, it's like you see one of those on the shared houses, you click it, and there's guaranteed to be at least 3 people just hanging out there. Pet Derby. Pet Derby was introduced a long time ago, and it had like a decent amount of popularity back in the day. A lot of people would use it as a break from normal questing just to go like have fun in the pet pavilion, and now it is completely dead. If you try to find a game in the like pet race derby section, It is almost completely empty. You may find one other person just messing around in there, but it's kind of just clowned on in the community as like a waste of time that the devs have spent on it, because to this day it is just absolutely killed. And the jewels that you can get to upgrade your speed or whatever in that game are just completely useless. Pretty much just feed to your pet jewels. Some of you may not know that Wizard 101 and King's Isle actually had European dedicated servers back in the day. These servers are long forgotten, however, due to the low amount of upkeep that they actually put into them. There was so few players that actually played on the European servers that they just never got updated. There was so many bugs and so many problems that kept occurring that King's Isle just pretty much ended up leaving it to die. They haven't really updated them in so long that I I'm not certain if they're still up and running, but if they are, there has to be like only a few players actually using them. Retired treasure cards. So, retired treasure cards are pretty much exactly what you expect them to be. They are just treasure cards that have been removed from the game, and there is very few select PC players that have some of them. Pretty much just people who have not used them before they have been retired. They are extremely rare, and only people who are either OG or like YouTubers really show them off sometimes. But yeah, they are treasure cards that you can no longer get in the game, and they are extremely rare. But you know, it's not the bottom of the iceberg, because at the end of the day, they are not that useful and they're rare, so you really won't see anybody actually using them. They kind of just want to hold on to them. So it's kind of just like a placeholder. Beta spell animation. So yes, some of the animations that we see today are not the original animations for some spells. There are a lot of spells that back in the day King's Isle had to work on because they were either too long, or they just didn't really look as good as they thought it would, or didn't really make sense. And there are even some videos up today that you can look up and see some of the old beta animations there were for some cards. But I definitely think that the current ones today are much better than the ones they had at launch. Belladonna Chris. So I think actually Belladonna Chris could have been lower on the iceberg, bro. She is basically just like the Gooner's heaven of this game. When Wisteria dropped, the amount of memes and shit that came out of people just like being weird and creepy over her was like insane. Like I didn't even really play the game that much at the time. I was like a kid. So like I maybe went through Wisteria once, but the fact that I knew about like all of the memes and jokes that were made of her at the time is insane. It got to the point actually where people had, or Wizard 101 had to actually release something saying like, yo, guys chill out. Like you're being a little weird towards Belladonna Crisp here. But you know what? Guilty as charged, you know what I'm saying? Wizard 101 music video. So this is actually something that I know of, like, without doing any background research of it. Wizard 101 music videos are literally exactly what they sound like. Like back in the day, people were bored, bro. They used to literally just make Wizard 101 music videos of their character dancing to like background music. They used to be like all over the place. Like sometimes they're in different worlds, or sometimes they were by their house. It's just kind of random, bro. But you would be surprised how much views those videos would get, bro. Like some of them blew up. Some of them in the hundreds of thousands of views just for like a character dancing with music behind it. You could definitely still search them up and see them to this day. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It was just kind of some like random like trend that just popped up out of nowhere, and people started making Wizard 101 music videos. Yeah, that's kind of pretty much it. The Meow Madon. So if you guys don't know what this is, it is basically just a mount. It is a regular like panther tiger mount, except for it is white and black, and this was a charity mount. It was only released for a certain amount of time. It was around December 2009 in the Crown Shop, and all proceeds from that mount actually went straight to charity. And it was only out for like a specific month and year, so it is actually extremely rare for a PC player to have this. There's still like a decent amount of people who do, because it just came out in the Crown Shop, and a lot of people knew about it because it was one of the only items in the game where they raised money for charity through an item in game. So there are still a lot of people who have it. But if you ever see someone on a white and black panther tiger, just know that motherfucker got some aura. Wizard 101 Wizard Blocks. So Wizard Blocks is pretty simple. It was actually just an iPhone game that they released. The iPhone game was like one of the mini games that you could play in the carnival. It was like the Connect the Colors one. Yeah, it came out for iPhone for a certain amount of time. I'm not sure if you can actually still download it. I believe that you need to have a Wizard 101 account. That's what I've heard to actually play it. But yeah, it was just like a fun little mini game that they put on iPhone. I know that they have made a lot of Flash games in the past. But this is one of those that they actually put to iPhone, which I had no idea about, so might be worth checking out. The carpet glitch. So the carpet glitch is pretty much in some houses you could put carpets down to actually make you go to areas in your house that you couldn't before. You kind of could just stack them and then walk up them, kind of float in the air. It's not really anything too important to the actual game because you could only really go to elevated heights in your house. You couldn't really get to anywhere important. It was just kind of like a fun little glitch that you can see people in their house like walking up into the sky kind of thing. But yeah, you could kind of stack carpets on top of each other to walk into the heavens. Hall monitor. Oh, this piece of shit. I hate this one. Basically, this is just the Wizard 101 snitch. So a hall monitor in Wizard 101 is a dev that they would put in highly crowded areas. Honestly, I think that this should be lower on the Wizard 101 tier list or Iceberg list because basically what it was just a dev that they would stick in places like the bazaar or the paint shop or anywhere where people would hide out, and they would kind of just like manage them, like see what they were saying. This was only on PC, obviously. It was kind of just like if anyone would say anything crazy. Honestly, it might have been for the best, but it was basically just a dev that would hang out in crowded areas and make sure that everybody was following the terms of service pretty much. Okay, and now I'm recording this video when I'm not sick and I don't sound like I'm dying. Okay, tadpole. Tadpole is pretty easy and simple. It was a fish. It was a life fish, and nobody knew that it was a life fish because you can only be found in Grizzleheim and Wintertusk pretty much at a certain time, and nobody knew how to get this fish for the crafting quest, so there was so many searches, and why is he burning my house? It's a fucking fish. Let's move on and get to the juicy shit, okay? Fog Unicorn. Now this is an extremely rare pet in the game. You'll pretty much never see it on PC, but only a few people have it. It's this purple and green unicorn, and the only way to get it was from playing Beckett Fun Online Games in a magazine issue number 2, which is now sold out. So this is an incredibly rare pet, and if you see one in the wild, that guy has so much aura. Headmaster Grey Rose. Okay, so this one is probably, I wish this was further down on the Iceberg list because in my opinion this is actually one of the coolest things that a lot of people don't know about this game, and that is that Headmaster Ambrose was actually supposed to be the ice school professor. If you want to know what that looked like, it's actually in my thumbnail. It's like the Ambrose that's with the blue drip and everything. That is what Ambrose was supposed to look like, but people thought that he actually looked better as the headmaster compared to Lydia Greyrose. Yes, Lydia Greyrose was supposed to be the actual headmaster, but people thought that that should be switched. And KingsIsle actually agreed pretty late into the, I think, alpha beta version of the game, and they switched them. So I was questing in Dragonspire the other day, and I randomly actually saw a picture of both of them hidden in the walls. So this is them right here. Now, the Empowerment Treasure card was an absolutely insane card used in PvP back in the day, and this was an extremely hard card to actually get. It was one of those things where you couldn't get it in the bazaar because so many people wanted it that they were always sold out. So what actually ended up happening was forums actually became created to actually sell this card for real life money. Yes, people were actually paying to get this card because of how overpowered it was, to the point where the devs actually had to step in and not only nerf this card but completely remove it from PvP. This one's a cool one, the Wizard 101 Valor Sword. So At first, when I looked at this sword, I was like, okay, this looks like a cool wand. Maybe you can get it from packs or something. It's one of the coolest looking wands, I think, personally, in the entire game. And the way they actually ended up giving this sword away was on Veterans Day to anybody who was used to be registered in the military. So yes, this sword was actually given to veterans who play Wizard 101, who previously served. So that's actually so cool how they actually decided to give this very rare and unique sword to a specific group of people, that served in the military. And not only that, the sword looks insane, and God bless our troops. The old Wild Bolt card. Most people know it today as a card that either did 10, 100, or 1,000 damage. It can either make or break some runs depending on, how much damage you actually get hit with. But the old Wild Bolt was actually a 2 pips storm spell that dealt a flat 1,000 damage with 10% accuracy. So it used to be one of those fun little challenge cards. The card only has 10%, but it doing 1,000 damage off rip was one of those things where if you hit it, you basically just won the fight and killed the boss. So what a lot of people would do was just spam this card over and over again until they high rolled and killed the boss in one turn. If you play Wizard 101 or even Wizard 101 console, you probably see a lot of people running around with the Bone Dragon mount today. This was originally an extremely hard mount to get. You had to pull it out of a pack specifically, the Dragon's Horde pack, but they actually changed it to the pack where you can actually run a specific event. It just happened recently. I forget what it's called. I think it's like Scholars Lost Pages, maybe. Yeah, I think it's the Lost Pages. And this mount is actually a 2% drop. It might even be less now. You have to run this over and over and over again trying to get this specific mount. A lot of my guild members have it. Very jealous. The next time it comes around, I'm actually going to dedicate a lot of time to get this mount because it is so sick, man. Inaccessible locations. So a lot of you may know that KingsIsle actually hides a lot of things outside of the map or places that you actually cannot see, in order to have them for either future events, or maybe it's just something that they didn't use that they didn't want to delete the code for. But with the implementation of photomancy, there has been so many times where people can see a queue timer, like a dungeon timer, or a team up like area just outside floating the map, right? One of the biggest examples of this is in the Wizard City Library in the archives. If you use photomancy and then go all the way to the right, you can actually see a dungeon queue up timer on the bottom right side of your screen. This is because that there was a lot of dungeons and runs that KingsIsle actually decided to not implement, and instead of deleting them, they kind of just left them there outside the playfield, which a lot of players have discovered. The 2-round Detrius run. Now, Detrius is an extremely hard boss in the middle of the game, pretty much around level 100. The 2-round Detrius strat is pretty much, if you have a team up of 4 people, there's usually someone who's going to be the support, 2 people who are going to feint, and then 1 person who's the hitter, which is like pretty much what every single run kind of is these days, except for in the Detrius fight. Detrius will kill one of the minions next to him, and when he does that, that is when you hit, and it will actually 2-round him, which there is a ring that you can get, which is known as one of the best rings in the entire game, and spamming this over and over again allows you to get this ring extremely fast. LGBTQ plus words banned. Now I gotta be careful, I don't want to get canceled here. So pretty much what KingsIsle did back in the day, they hired a couple of developers who weren't too kind or friendly to the LGBTQ plus. This was a long time ago. Obviously KingsIsle now is extremely friendly towards LGBTQ plus players, but back in the day there was a lot of words associated with them that were banned and that didn't really make sense that they were banned. You couldn't really say specific things, kind of like how you can't say specific video game companies, but you can say Pokemon because they like Pokemon. Kind of the banning system seemed a little unfair back in the day, but, this was like 7 years ago. They've gotten way more progressive now, way more friendly to everybody, and this was a lot of controversy for them back in the day. You guys probably know all about what Nick Jonas is. Nick Jonas got added to Grizzleheim a long ass time ago. No clue why. Hey gang,
Checking out my music, and I hope you enjoy the new Winter Tusk area of Wizard 101. See you in the game.
Yeah, so he got added when Winter Tusk got added, and it even said that Nick Jonas made some of the Winter Tusk music. Here's the thing. That shit is a fucking lie. I'm just gonna break it down to you real quick. Nick Jonas did not make the Winter Tusk music. There's no way in hell. He obviously just said, yeah, you can put me in the game. I will sign off on whatever music you make and say that I made it, but let's be real. That music in Winter Tusk ain't no goddamn way he made that shit. Nuh-uh. So yeah, Nick Jonas is in the game, but he did not make the music. Nergo James, yes. So everybody knows about Selena Gomez in Wizard 101. For a limited time, she was in Crab Alley, and it was actually one of the major plot that the King, the Rock person, the weird crab, Reddit mod kind of guy with the lisp, actually captured her, and we had to go in and save her. Crab Alley is around right now, but the story is completely different. For some reason, they decided to remove Selena Gomez out of the actual area. It was just a limited time event, and you could actually get a Selena Gomez statue who would repeat the voice lines if you pressed square on her. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It was kind of like a fever dream. A lot of people post about it on TikTok now, people who actually have the Selena Gomez statue and all that. So yeah, I wasn't around when that was out, so kind of weird. The secret Croctopia room is exactly what it sounds like. There was a secret room in Croctopia, and that's it. No, I'm just kidding. It was a room that people found with photomancy. Again, it was a secret area that would have been added to Croctopia if the devs actually finished it and added it, but they ran out of time. So yes, Croctopia would have actually been even longer than it is today. I am so glad that they decided not to finish it because, oh my god, I hate Croctopia. The Wizard 101 trick spell might have been the most overpowered and stupidest thing that they have ever added to the game. I'm surprised that it's actually halfway on this tier list because, oh my god, the trick spell was a 0 pip, steal a power pip spell. Imagine that in PvP, bro. You spend 0 pips, you still get your pip every round, your power pip, and you steal their power pip that they got. It is essentially just advance one round in power pips on your opponent. Just have more pips is literally the entire card. Obviously, King's Isle realized it was stupid to add, and they got rid of it very quickly. Marleybone Insignia gear is, yes, exactly what it sounds like. It is gear that you got from Marleybone with the actual logos from Marleybone and, features very cool looking symbols on it. This gear has been discontinued for the new worlds, like in Mushu Plus. I'm really surprised that they actually did this. I think that they kind of just realized that it would have been too much work, actually. Like, the amount of gear that they would have had to make with the different world symbol on it would have been too much. You'll see a lot of people with it on PC, like they'll have that gear. It really wasn't that hard to get or anything. The only problem was the devs realized that it was just going to take too long to get, so they just removed it completely. I gotta actually go find the fucker. Hold on. Oh, there he is. Okay. So, anybody who has seen this motherfucker walking around just bouncing through the Arcanum, I just found this out today. This is Frankie Forearms, and Frankie Forearms is actually a pet that you can get specifically on PC. You can't get it on console because this event is long past. To actually get this pet, you had to play a mobile game called Rise and Destroy. That's how you would earn it. So you can't get the pet anymore. It was a limited time exclusive thing, but they decided for fun just to add it to the Arcanum too. I always saw this motherfucker just bouncing around and had no idea who it was, so that makes a lot more sense. So the Sinbad wand death damage was pretty much just this big controversy because it was initially featured in very high death damage upon the September 2019 release, but it was patched within a couple of days to fire and myth damage. So this was a big problem because this came in packs too, and people who bought it in packs, they were like, okay, I'm getting this for my death, it does death damage, but it wasn't supposed to feature death damage, so the people who bought it for their death actually got scammed because it was initially death damage and then changed a couple days later to fire and myth. So people were outraged. King's Isle actually did something for the first time that is extremely surprising. Instead of just refunding the crowns, they let the players keep their death wand and then just had it in the crown shop for myth and fire. But the people who bought the death damage wand, actually got to keep it. So that wand is completely like unique and rare to them now, and they own one of the like rarest items in the entire game because of their mistake. The ATM Oplex is a Wizard 101 creator who actually just spoils and leaks things from King's Isle. It's pretty much a hacker who goes into files. This happens with a lot of games like Rainbow Six Siege, Marvel Rivals. They go into the game files and they see what future codes look like. The codes will have like an actual name for future releases. And this is something that he does. He goes into the game codes, sees the names, and then tells everybody on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube about future releases. So basically, we're just getting all of the news early from this guy. The Wizard 101 Treasure Card Vault was an absolutely insanely good idea from King's Isle. It was just poorly executed. It's exactly what you think it is. It's a treasure card vault, just like the bank system works where you can store your treasure cards. The problem is people would actually start hoarding treasure cards, right? So they got all the good ones, hid them in their vault, so they would just camp the bazaar and then put them in their vault so that there was none in circulation, right? So this caused a lot of problems for the actual bazaar, like the market. A lot of prices crashed because of this, and then some cars weren't even be able to like get from the bazaar or in general because people were just hoarding them. So they actually got rid of the idea, put the treasure cards back into the bazaar circulation, and yeah, that idea is probably never returning. Hero 101 is a game that KingsIsle was working on for a very long time. It was a spin-off of Wizard 101 and Pirate 101, which featured superheroes. The fighting system was pretty much similar to Pirate 101, except for instead of pirates, it was heroes, and they all had their own unique ability, like super strength, speed. This game never really kicked off just because it really never had the appeal or hype that, Wizard 101 and Pirate 101 had. This is pretty much like a dead project, and not a lot of people play it or really use it. The One Ring is a specific ring that only devs have access to, and it is absolutely broken. Its stats are so insane. I recommend you look it up just if you want to see how absolutely broken it is. Again, there's a reason only devs have this ring. It is so good that you pretty much just one-shot anything in the game. It is like damn near max stats, and no gear in Wizard 101 will ever come close. Enhanced boss encounters are pretty much the challenge modes of this game. Kind of what Wizard 101 was thinking, that sometimes you go into boss fights and they're actually a lot harder based upon your level. So, with that being said, if you were going to go help your, level 1 friend out, or like level 30 or 40 friend out with Malastare, if you went in there on your level 170 character, the fight would be way harder. There was also different varieties of this, like sometime around the month of like January 2017, I believe, they made Malastare a 1 million health boss, and you achieve this like very, very rare today badge of actually beating him. You got some cool drops from it too. It was pretty much just bragging rights if you were able to do that back in the day, and we haven't seen any of this since that. PvP is toxic, man. I have seen so many Wizard 101 YouTubers who specifically do PvP, most notably Awesome the Sauce. He has recently actually retired from doing Wizard 101 PvP because of how toxic it actually was. There was insane amounts of stream sniping, so in this game, there is a lot of class variety, right? A certain class is better than a different one, they counter each other, so what a lot of people would do who are in similar elo to Awesome the Sauce, they would target Q snipe him just to have an advantage over him, and then they would do something called stalling or jading. So yeah, this is a very popular thing where they would just heal over and over and over again, or debuff over and over and over again, just make the match last so long that they actually just run out of time and they have more health so that they win. A lot of people don't know this, but the Celestia prequest, or the CL prequest, was actually extremely difficult. After Dragonspire, the devs kind of thought, you just defeated Malastare, we're not going to let it be easy to get into the next world of Celestia, and they made it long, complicated, and a hard fight, which everybody hated. The new world just dropped, the last thing people want to be doing is a hard fight right before they get access to a bunch of new content, right? So the devs decided to make this a lot easier. You can pretty much just straight up go into Celestia now, nothing really required. But back in the day, it was so annoying to get into Celestia. Now, if you play this game, you have probably picked up a couple tomato baskets in your time. So basically what this was a common item that you could pretty much get throughout Wizard 101. It was a housing item. I've gotten a fair share of them just playing the game regularly, a couple from crown shops, but the basic summary of it is you could sell this item for a lot of gold. And this was actually a mistake by King's Isle, but before they noticed and fixed it, a lot of players would just farm these baskets and then sell them for an insane amount of gold and then get to max gold very quickly. What ended up happening was King's Isle said, if you continue to do this, we will ban you. And they went ahead and banned a bunch of people for it anyways. Anybody who abused that glitch, which caused a lot of controversy because, King's Isle, they were the ones who made the mistake. People abused that mistake and they got banned for it. The Bazaar in Wizard 101 is a very tedious thing, right? Because it is first come, first serve, supply and demand. It's a sales kind of system, right? So there are certain cards and items in the bazaar that a lot of people want to get. Sometimes there are pierce jewels in the bazaar, which people will pay so much for. Sometimes there's specific jewels. Sometimes there's specific gear. Sometimes there's specific, items like treasure cards. And it's a first come, first serve kind of thing. The problem with that is there are, of course, those people who are going to make bots who just sit at the bazaar waiting for an item to come out to buy them, which is what a bazaar bot is. Kind of just someone sitting there paid to just farm and grab these certain items that will help the wizard a lot. This sucks for other players just trying to casually play the game because they will pretty much never get these items. A quick launcher is pretty much a Bazaar bot, but just for launching the game. It is a software that launches the game way quicker than a lot of other programs. So this is important because of the Bazaar pretty much. People would just launch the game extremely quickly when a server shutdown happens, a maintenance time. Right after that is over, they will quick launch the game, get right to the bazaar, and then buy things faster than everybody else. This is used for a couple of other things too, like first special reagents kind of thing, but it is bannable, so please do not do it. Zeke lives in your backpack. This is one of my favorite theories on the Iceberg list. So you will notice that Zeke follows you around to every single world, but it is a common thing now known in Wizard 101 that Zeke actually probably just follows you around in your backpack or like spellbook or whatever, because he is the only person that pops up and tells you when your backpack is almost full, which I don't know how he would know that besides if he's actually in there with you, which explains why he follows you around to every world that you end up going to. And then King Zhao kind of confirmed this with even releasing a specific item that actually has Zeke popping out of your backpack. So I mean, this is pretty much just confirmed at this point, but it's one of my favorite theories on the Iceberg list. Back in the day, Mushu was known as one of the hardest worlds when it was just Dragonspire as the last world, and that was because at the end of the world, it wasn't just one Oni that you had to fight, it was actually four. And then Wizard 101 kind of realized this is way too challenging, especially for players that are, children. Having to fight four Onis at the same time was way too hard. That's like an Arc 3 kind of fight. So Wizard 101 decided to just give a 6,000 Jade Oni boss for the final fight of Mushu, which is still pretty decently challenging today, but I couldn't imagine having to fight four of them. You might have seen sometimes like a live stream or TV broadcast get hacked, and then like a hacker will pop up on the screen and say like a live message. This is something that actually happened to King's Isle and Wizard 101. It wasn't the first time that this has happened. They have overtaken the live stream and actually said some crazy like stuff. They have also like hacked into the game and will pop up specific messages for all players to see that are horrible. Like there was one instance where there was a disgruntled employee, you might remember this, that was very upset at King's Isle and how he was fired. So he would actually hack into the system and relay a bunch of bad messages about King's Isle and how they treat their employees on the screen. And these hacks lasted for about like a week. Wizard 101 actually came out and compensated players for the problem. I don't think it was much. I think it was just like delaying double reagents for a week or something like that. But this is one of the funniest things that's ever happened to Wizard 101. The only problem was the language used, because, at the end of the day, it is a kid's card game. There are a lot of games in particular that come to mind when Chinese relegations come into play. The number one I would think of is Rainbow Six Siege. There was a lot of skulls in Rainbow Six Siege on like tapestry and banners, and China couldn't have that because it's very like known as taboo in their culture. So Rainbow Six Siege actually had to go back and remove those in order for the game to be played in Asian countries, specifically China, and the same thing had to happen with Wizard 101. This was pretty hard too because, of the School of Death. Human Grub Guardians was another side game that Wizard 101 actually released. The goal of the game was to guard your pet and protect from goons from getting like treats and like different stuff like that. This game was quickly dismantled by the Wizard 101 community for being trash. You would receive like medals and badges from this game. Not really great rewards, but it was another one of those side projects from Wizard 101 that people just did not agree with, and it was shut down fairly quickly. I feel like I don't even have to explain auto clickers to you guys at this point. It was pretty much just an auto clicker program that was run on Wizard 101. This was mainly to farm XP from certain fights. You would kind of just go into the fight, the auto clicker would kill everything for you, and you would farm XP while not even playing. These are extremely bannable by Wizard 101, and nobody's seen a lot since because this is one of those things that they actually crack down on a lot. And in the last of this tier of the iceberg, spiral spoilers cease and desist. Remember earlier when I said that there was people leaking things from hacking into the game files and seeing certain things in the future? They would then go online and then release them talking about the future of Wizard 101, the new world and everything. Well, they actually took action against these people, taking them to court with cease and desist orders, and they got in huge legal trouble. Obviously hacking into gaming companies wasn't that big of a problem back in the day, so people would get away with it a lot. But as technology has progressed and gaming companies have gotten more rights, they have cracked down on a lot of them, and these lawsuits have actually ended up ruining hackers' lives, so you won't see many of them anymore. Okay, guys, we are getting down to the bottom two tiers of the iceberg, and this is where shit gets a little scary. I don't know. So, Mr. Lincoln memory loss. Mr. Lincoln is the bird in the Wizard 101 Ravenwood area, and it is rumored that Mr. Lincoln actually suffers from memory loss. And this is because throughout many times of the playthrough, he forgets your character and is one of the only characters in the actual game that does this. There's a lot of people in a lot of forums talking about this. They don't know if it's like actually confirmed if he suffers from memory loss, but it's one of those things where it's kind of creepy. There's like a lot of characters in this game that just have normal dialogue telling you where to go and what to be, but he's just kind of like this register guy that forgets about who you are sometimes, and he kind of just wanders around. Calamity the Wiz. Calamity the Wiz is a known player in the Wizard 101 community, mostly on Twitter and Reddit. So basically, what he is this avid player of the game, except he pretty much hates King's Isle. King's Isle has made a lot of horrible decisions in the past, and he roasts the hell out of them. He makes a bunch of like memes and like gifs about it, posting it online, and they get some of the most likes and comments that any Wizard 101 poster or player gets on the platform, to the point where KingsIsle actually sees them and got mad at him a lot over what he was posting, saying not to slander the devs. And if you look him up today, his posts are still there, except for he has recently stopped because of how much attention they are getting. A lot of you players who are playing today but used to play back in the day will probably notice that a lot of the sound effects are actually different, and the one that's most noticeable is when you get hit. This is a children's card game at the end of the day, so when you get hit, it's not really supposed to sound like you're in pain, but that did not used to be the case. Mushu disturbing face. Now, this is something that's actually really funny that I'm seeing on the iceberg list because I saw this literally yesterday. I was questing on my myth and I was just like, I saw that out of nowhere, right? So I backtracked a little bit, went back, and I saw the disturbing face, and then it disappeared as soon as I looked at it. And then upon looking it up, I realized that this has actually been something in the Wizard 101 community for a long time now, that there's just this random floating face for some reason at the end of this boss in Mushu. And I even saw it the other day and was like, wait a minute, what the fuck was that? And apparently there's like a long discussion on why that's there, and nobody really knows what it is. So, yeah, that's kind of freaking weird. Back in the day when Wizard 101 was just getting popular, there was so many off-brand Wizard 101s made. There was fake copies of this game that you would see on pop-up ads around different websites. Most notably, they would try to throw in things that kind of looked like Wizard 101, such things like unicorns and like wizards and shit like that. But when actually clicking on these ads and trying to download, it would pretty much just give your computer a virus and try to steal your information. There were so many of these at the time that the official Wizard 101 actually had to come out and say, hey, there is a shit ton of clones around trying to like steal your information, so be careful. And it actually happened to so many people that Wizard 101 actually had to find these people and take them to court. Just like the other conspiracy about how Zeke follows you around in the backpack, a lot of other conspiracies has stemmed from this theory, kind of thinking about how Zeke might actually be evil and working for Malistaire or some boss that we haven't even seen yet. Maybe later in the future Zeke is actually going to turn out to be a bad guy. It actually would make a lot of sense if in the end of the story Zeke turned out to be a bad guy. I mean, this guy's been following you around to every single world, not really, like providing anything besides needing to go around the worlds finding like different kind of bands, and people have even speculated that he's trying to distract you from the overall goal of beating the game and beating Malistaire by trying to run around and collect these like unimportant things. Yes, he gives you a training point, but there's been so many theories about how Zeke is actually evil and working for somebody else, trying to follow you around and just kind of distract you. And I don't know. It's this weird rabbit hole theory talking about how him and his wife are actually like not clones, but like descendants or like the parents of somebody evil like Malistaire. Secretly, I don't know. Like the rabbit hole has gone so deep that everything I've found online is just like no actual theory behind it. We're kind of just waiting to see if they do anything with Zeke's character. Okay, I was waiting to get to this one. Clans. And, yeah, this is exactly what it sounds like. Back in the day in Wizard 101, there was a lot of people who would put on uniforms that were all white. Yeah, I think you know where this one's going. And would stand in the commons and basically cosplay Ku Klux Klan members. Get a job. That's all I gotta say about this one. Get a job. Get a life. Holy shit. I mean, wow. Cosplaying that in Wizard 101 is crazy. Yeah, people are just racist, man. I mean, that's pretty much what this whole thing is. They got banned pretty much, and if you're spending your time standing in the commons wearing that, seek God, find help. Yeah. This is again one of my favorite theories on the entire list. As we have gotten to the bottom of the iceberg, this is where the theories actually get kind of cool. And with saying that the first one is Merle kidnaps you. So this one actually I have thought about a lot, and when thinking about it, I actually think it is completely true. Right? Like thinking about the start of the game, the very start. You're waking up. He says, "Look, Gamma, he's waking up. The transformation worked." And you're like, you're a kid. They know this, that you're a kid from the real world who got, it's like some Harry Potter shit pretty much, right? But they never mentioned how you actually got there. They never mentioned, like in Harry Potter, he got sent like the bird, and he got an invite there pretty much. But instead, in this world, you're just waking up, and he said the spell worked, right? So the theory that Merle kidnapped you from somewhere to actually like come and save the spiral, it does actually make a lot of sense, right? Like trying to think about where you came from, the start of the game, you waking up from pretty much nowhere just for him to be like, hey, you're a wizard now, what's your class? And then him sending you on all these missions to save his world is kind of interesting. And I think honestly, he might have actually kidnapped us. Creepy whispers. So, just like the screams back in the day, Wizard 101 actually came out with a lot of weird, like little sound effects and dialogue that you can hear around similar part or different parts of the world. Most notably, Wizard City, you could hear like these creepy little kid whispers and like chants through different areas. Most notably, this was in the death school or death areas of the game. It was also kind of rumored, and I think that if this isn't mentioned in the tier list, I'm actually going to add my own creepy, cool thing to this tier list. Um, and that's the thing of minions, right? Minions were seen to be a lot of Wizard 101 students who actually quit the game, right? That's what minions are kind of considered in this game. People who quit the game and are now turned into minions just wandering around, right? So that is kind of like the theory, as in why there's so many like creepy whispers. It is like the students who actually quit the game and stopped playing, and now we're just wandering like minions and spirits throughout the game. So that is one of the coolest theories, and I understand why it is so low on the iceberg. This is another one of those topics that are no longer in the game, but it was in the past, right? Gory Snowman. Now, when thinking about this, I actually pretty much predicted exactly what this is before looking it up. It is pretty much an old animation from Snowman. Instead of him popping out of the ground and him like flinging his knife, causing like a ripple effect and him hitting you, he actually used to stab himself, pull out his heart, and throw his heart at you. And King's Isle pretty much just decided, hey, this might be a little too much for a kid's game, and they pretty much changed it almost immediately. And we never got to see an animation. We never got to see, what that would have looked like. I wish that we did, because that actually sounds pretty badass, which actually makes me think, what if they made an R-rated Wizard 101? That would be pretty fucking cool. Like, they had spells who actually like were bloody, and like you could cast spells that actually did like crazy like effects and damage to people. That would be kind of cool. So maybe this is something we got to bring back. When I first saw Azteca Ghost Girl, I thought it was something completely different. But pretty much what this was, it was a bundle that you could buy back in the day. It was an Azteca house, and then only like one person ever recorded this. They went to the house, and it was a young child. It was a girl, pretty much, that reported this. In the bottom of the house, it was like this creepy, dark catacombs looking area, and she reportedly saw like this ghost figure, like kind of ghost girl standing there, but she only saw it one time. And then people pretty much didn't believe her until a year later that King's Isle actually confirmed that they were originally going to put a ghost looking girl character in the bottom of there permanently, but then decided to remove it, and they were not sure why it actually stayed there in the coding for her when they teleported down there. But every time that she went back since, it was not there. The only way that people believe her is because King's Isle reportedly said, yes, they were planning on adding one down there, but it was too creepy at the time, that this came out for kids, so they decided to remove it. But one person actually did reportedly see it, and I feel like she's kind of going crazy thinking about how, some people don't believe her, but at least King's Isle confirmed it, so. Hellhound. So yeah, this one is pretty much just referring to the spell card Heckhound. Now, I originally thought this was just going to be something like King's Isle named the card Hellhound back in the day. Kids were like, this is, weird. It shouldn't reference a swear word or hell, on an actual treasure card for a game about children, right? But then when looking into it further, it turns out that this was actually just the placebo effect. It never said Hellhound. It always said Heckhound. And people just thought for the longest time that it originally said Hellhound. But after discussing it with King's Isle and like the entire community, it never said Hellhound. People just went crazy over this because they thought for the longest time it did, and it was just changed. And people could swear that the card used to say this. Maybe this is King's Isle just like pulling a prank or a joke on everybody, like pretending like it never said that, but people are pretty damn sure it used to say Hellhound. Darkmoor Manor News. Now, again, this is one that you can probably hear and immediately understand what it is, right? Darkmoor is known as this creepy, dark, chaotic, evil kind of area, so it makes sense that in some areas they decided to add crazy things such as a noose. It doesn't make sense that they would add it to a children's game like Wizard 101, however, though. So, for a certain period of time in the Darkmoor Manor, you could actually find a real hanging noose in the area until they decided, hey, this is a little too far for a kid's game. We don't want kids to pretty much know what that is or what that's made for, so we're going to go ahead and remove it. But for a certain amount of time, you could see an actual real hanging noose in Wizard 101. I already talked about this pretty much with the clan topic, the KKK robes and all that. I'm pretty much just going to skip over this one. I already explained it. It's just people who need jobs. Okay, moving on. Now again, this is one of those creepy and dark ones that Wizard 101 devs decided to put in the game for some reason and then immediately pretty much realized, what the hell are we doing? This is a kid's game. We want to make the dialogue really cool, but we have to stay PG and kid friendly, right? So the original Lord Nightshade boss actually used to read, "Wizard, I've been having a vision. I foresee blood splatters and carcasses on the walls. Let us seal your fate." Basically saying, I'm about to murder yo ass. That's pretty much what he's saying. This was obviously changed to, I don't even remember the Lord Nightshade dialogue now, but it is kid friendly and is not as insane as that was. Blood splatters and carcasses on the wall is a crazy thing to be saying in a Wizard 101's kids game, though, that's for sure. If you actually took the time to watch this entire video, thank you so much. I had so much fun making this. I love making Wizard 101 content. As you can see, I've been grinding for the past couple of months, trying to, upload every single day, making a Wizard 101 playthrough and some fun videos along the way. If this video does end up getting a lot of views, if you're new here, please subscribe. My ultimate goal for this channel is 1,000 subs. We're at 711 right now, so we're getting there slowly, surely, but yeah, if you're new here, please go ahead and drop a follow. I'm going to keep uploading Wizard 101 videos, and if you have any ideas or videos you want to see, please drop them in the comments below. But yeah, if you made it this far in the video, bro, thank you so much.